Here's a person who talks about fruit. And they say this, left this comment under our little skit that we did, Benedict and I did, about where she played Ms. Fruit trying to make my life miserable. So they left a comment under it. They say, I planted a fig tree several years ago, and it is a marvelous producer. Well, when you plant fruit trees, that's what you want, right? This year, the year of Mike, he calls it, so apparently the year he started testing his blood sugar, I ate just 2 of my wonderful figs, nothing else, 2 figs from his own fig tree. 1 hour later, Mike said 188. 2 hours later, Mike was not impressed, and it read 190. Not satisfied with just one result. You get the idea. He's clinging to hope that maybe this is an anomaly. Maybe this won't be the case every time. Yeah, I jumped up to 188, 190 this time, but maybe if I try it again, it'll be 130. So he's like not satisfied with just one result. I tried again the next day, tried his 2 figs from his own fig tree. This time it went to over 200. I must say I'm going to miss my figs, but I cannot argue with Mike. Boy, ain't that the truth. Can't argue with Mike. You can argue with me. You can argue with the various YouTube guys, various medical doctors, various endocrinologists. But you can't argue with Mike because, I'll tell you a secret, but don't tell him, he's not a real person. He's just a computer that can test your blood sugar on the spot. Bam, immediately. He'll let you know where you stand. And when Mike says out of bounds, it's out of bounds. He's not biased. He's not like, well, I'm just here to promote Dr. Jason Fung. I love Dr. Fung. I'm going to promote him. No, he's just Mike. He's just a computer. He's just going to tell you what your blood sugar is. He says you cannot argue with Mike. He says, I've started on the carnivore diet after watching all of your videos, which is not really something I promote, but it works for some people. He says, my morning fasting blood sugar has come down to the high 170s, or from mid to high 170s down to low to mid 110s. My very personal thanks to you and your videos. So Mike the meter, Mike the glucose meter, I call him Mike because he's your friend. He will help you. He will motivate you. You know, there's 2 things Mike does for you. Number 1, he educates you about foods, which ones work, which ones don't. Number 2, he motivates you. Both of those are indispensable. You got to know which foods do what. You got to know. You've got to understand. You've got to get some data. This is a data-driven YouTube channel. We're all about data. Find out what your blood sugar is doing. I'll never forget when I was a young man. I think it was my first car I was driving, and it was a junker. I couldn't afford anything more than that. So it was like a $200 car. And it was making a thumping noise as I drove. Thump, thump, thump. The whole chassis was loose, apparently. And I didn't know what was causing it. And I didn't know if I would start driving my car one day and it would just totally fall apart. I didn't know how to fix it. I didn't even know what to check. I was just no mechanic, never have been, never will be. But I knew that wasn't good. Cars aren't supposed to thump, thump, thump when you drive. And I worried all the time if my whole bottom of my car was going to fall out on the road one of these days. But I was so ignorant, and ignorance caused so much of my fear. And because I was ignorant, I had no clue what I could do about it. And I couldn't really afford to take it to a mechanic and have much work done. It was all I could do to have bought that car. So I just had to endure it and hope that it wouldn't fall apart. It lasted me a couple of years and finally sold it for junk, basically. But ignorance can cause a lot of fear, and it can paralyze you from ever doing much about it. I was paralyzed by my ignorance of that car. I didn't know what to do, and all I could do was just hope my car wouldn't fall apart the next time I drove it to some place. Some people are that way with diabetes. They know they've got problems. They know there's a thump, thump, thump kind of a thing going on, high blood sugar, and they don't feel good, and their eyesight's getting blurry, and they're peeing all the time. There's a lot of thumps going on, but they have no idea what to do. So they just kind of grit their teeth and flinch and hope that they don't fall apart today and hope they can make it as long as they can. But I'll tell you what, when you start with Mike the meter, you get some data and you figure out, okay, so this rice isn't really doing my blood sugar any favor. This baked potato, as good as it tastes, is driving my blood sugar way off the charts, just like a candy bar would. You start getting some information, some knowledge, some insight, and just as importantly, you get some motivation. I think I'll stay away from baked potatoes. Matter of fact, I think I'll stay away from French fries and hash browns and all forms of potatoes. And I'll definitely not be drinking Cokes anymore because they'll shoot my blood sugar way up there. But if I drink water or have some tea with a little stevia in it, no problems. It may even go down. And you start making choices on the basis of the data that's been coming at you, rushing at you. I couldn't tell you how many times I tested my blood sugar in those early days. I don't test as often as I did in those early days. I was like just fascinated by this whole process. It was almost like a game to me, except the stakes were my own life and my own future and my own health. But I was constantly testing. And after a while, I started to see a pattern. The carbohydrates drove my blood sugar high. Proteins didn't do hardly anything. Fats did nothing. And I began crafting a diet on the basis of my glucose meter. And yeah, I was reading Dr. Bernstein and a couple of others. So I was gathering some input from some books I read, but mostly the power came from Mike the meter, who is telling me what to eat and what not to eat. And I began to compare my experience with my glucose meter and some of the books I read, like Dr. Bernstein's, and he was saying pretty much the same thing I was figuring out from Mike. I wanted to take a little time today and share what's going on with the Beat Diabetes challenges that we've been holding for the last several years. If you watch our channel regularly, you'll know that we've been making some changes lately. I've cut our weekly videos from 3 per week to 2, and we haven't had an official 2024 challenge thus far. Additionally, although I usually post videos on Sundays and Fridays, sometimes that even changes. The main reason for the reduction of videos and some of the changes is that I'm trying to give myself a little more time to produce materials I can provide you that will enable you to get the information you need to lower your blood sugar to non-diabetic levels in a year or less. Now, the time period I set for these challenges I've done in the past has been as short as 4 months, but I've come to believe that a 6-month period would be superior, and it would enable people to see more success in beating diabetes. I had it in my mind to begin almost immediately at the beginning of this year to start on a book toward this end. But I soon realized that since I had just finished producing videos toward the beating diabetes in 6 months, or 4 months I think it was, I could get the necessary information into your hands faster if I would group the relevant videos I've already made and offer them to you along with several pages on my website devoted to this 6-month challenge to beat diabetes. The challenge would work in 2024 or 2025 or 3025 if it is still around. The basic principles of beating diabetes will never expire or go out of style, even 1,000 years from now. Now that the powerful truths of low-carb eating and time-restricted eating have been discovered, they are going to be around and be successful as long as this world lasts. I still plan to write a book on this subject, but I have been working since the beginning of this year of putting together these relevant videos into a series that I've titled, Will You Accept the Challenge? Beat Diabetes in 6 Months. It involves 32 different videos, and by the time you finish watching these videos, there's going to be no question in your mind about what your problem is, what you need to do, what you need to eat, and what you need to stop eating. You will have in your possession and in your heart and your mind the keys you need to thoroughly whip diabetes and get your glucose below the diabetic A1C standard of 6.5. Now, obviously, I can't guarantee this is going to happen for everyone in 6 months, but I can say, based on my thousands of interactions with diabetics, this is much more likely than not for you if you are diligent and careful to follow the guidelines to the letter. I will leave a link in the description that will take you to a web page which will get you started and show you where you can download these videos to your own phone or computer, or simply watch them as they stream multiple times if you desire. But I would recommend you download them so that they will always be available to you for instant access, whether this channel is still going or has long since disappeared. Now, I'm not going to kid you. These videos are available on YouTube, and you may be thinking, well, why should I pay for a download of the videos when I can just watch them on YouTube? Well, let me give you a few reasons. First, to be honest, my YouTube channel is getting so large with videos that I've uploaded, it's becoming unwieldy. At present, there are 644 videos, and it's just getting bigger every month and every year. And most of the videos, well, they're in no particular order. So for a newly diagnosed diabetic to go to my website and simply say, well, I'm going to watch every one of these videos from the very first to the very last, well, that would be a tall order. But guess what? Some have done exactly that, and I have to applaud them. But like any other channel, some of the videos are far more important and fundamental than others. And if you've just found out you have sky-high blood sugar, you need to get the most fundamental and foundational truths as quickly as possible. And that's the purpose of this Beat Diabetes in 6 Months series. The videos are numbered. They're in a relatively sequential order, and they are the videos a diabetic desperately needs to view in order to move as fast as possible out of the land of diabetes and into the land of normal blood sugar. Another reason for downloading these videos is that when you download them, I give you permission to copy them and share them with others. Instead of simply telling your diabetic friends, well, you really ought to watch Beat Diabetes, you can put them on a flash drive and put them into the hands of your diabetic friend or relative and tell them, watch these videos. They can make a real difference in your life. And of course, a third reason to purchase the videos is that this is a way you can express appreciation toward Benedict and me for any help we may have given you. We put a lot of work in this channel, and we spend a lot of time planning and creating videos to help people all over the world to break the chains of diabetes. Your generosity means a lot to us and helps us continue what we feel is not just a hobby or even a passion. We see it as a ministry of the Lord Jesus, one that He has called us to. Now, to kick off this video series, we have reduced the price significantly. It will stay like this at the low price for about 2 weeks, but it will go up 2 weeks from today. So download your video series as soon as possible. Again, the title is, Will You Accept the Challenge? Beat Diabetes in 6 Months. In the description below this video, there will be a link that will not only point you to where you can get the videos, it will also share some important information and link you to several months of recipe videos that will help you in your quest to thoroughly pummel the adversary that has bullied you for years. Yes, I do plan on writing a book based on the videos and hope to have that available to you sometime this year. But for now, these videos are all you need to get started. Go to the description. Click on that word more. Some people miss that and they think, well, there's nothing there. Yeah, there is. But you got to click on the word more, M-O-R-E, and jump in with both feet. You can do it, my friend. You can beat diabetes. Probably most of you know my wife Benedicta, but few of you know the amazing paths God has led her to bring her to where she is today. Benedicta was orphaned at an early age and lived with an elderly stepmother growing to adolescence. They were so poor, Benedicta had to drop out of school and sell food door to door for them to survive. As a teen, Benedicta got a job as a housemaid, which developed into a nightmare. She was required to cook, clean, wash, take care of the children, and she had to get up at 4 a.m. every day just to get her work started. Worse than that, she was frequently beaten. At around 20, she moved to the huge city of Lagos, where she started her own little business. Sometimes she prospered, but at other times she nearly starved and went days at a time without eating. At one point, she became so sick she passed out in her room and nearly died. She found herself outside of her body, and she was able to see the splendors of heaven until she was sent back with a command to share her story. One day, however, her life changed when an American evangelist came to her community to preach. And of course, that was me. The rest, as they say, is history. Benedicta has shared her life story in a recently published autobiography, and you can get it on Amazon as either an ebook or a paperback. A link to this book on Amazon is in the description.